It's time for Speaking of Speaking. Quick tips and tools to take you from stage fright to spotlight. This podcast gives you an inside look from the world of public speaking and speaking secrets you need to be bold from the stage, no matter what business you're in. The host of Speaking, Carl Richards.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, another edition of the Speaking of Speaking podcast. I am very blessed to have Justin Glover joining me today. Justin Glover and his team has spent more than 10 years and $2 million developing the world's first e-learning marketing system, currently being used by more than 5,000 small business clients in 50 countries around the world to grow their business to multi-million dollar statuses and beyond that. So one of the things Justin does and does it very well is helps entrepreneurs basically make more profit, because if you're not making profit, guess what? You're not really in business. This is very valuable tools that we'll be sharing today on how all that relates to speaking and communication. Justin, welcome to Speaking of Speaking.
Carl, it is a pleasure to be here. I'm super pumped up to share and just be here with you today.
Give me a little bit of your backstory, Justin. What brought you to where you are today? And I'm not talking about like the stork or birth or anything like that, but your entrepreneurial journey. How did you get started on it?
So back in 2008, I was following the model that I was previously given in terms of creating success and wealth in life. And that was get a job and work your way up the corporate ladder and like max out your pay and all that stuff. And so I did that at one job, but there was another problem. I was like, okay, well, I'm maxed out on hours here, but I want more money. And so I went and got a second job. And then that same problem happened again. Now I'm like, I'm maxed at two jobs, but I want more money. And so I got a third job. And I was working about 100 hours a week. And I realized that model that I'd been given was broken. And so that sort of led me to the internet looking for different solutions. That's when I learned about the world of internet marketing and the power of the internet and the leverage that it actually gives us to create relationships with people and build businesses and communicate with more people and sell stuff and earn money from referring sales and all this whole beautiful world. And so I dove headfirst into that, created business. It did fairly well. I've created 2 or 3 businesses since that stage. And for the last decade, I would say I've been helping people 2 or 3 large type clients and businesses and companies per year. That's kind of the capacity of the business model that we set up is 2 or 3, 7 or 8 figure per month type revenue companies. So large companies, we go in, we find out where some holes are that we could patch, and we patch them, and we sort of tie into the back end profits. And that's been the business model for a decade, and it's been amazing, and I love it. And it provides, a lot of freedom for us in our lifestyle. My wife, we live back and forth half the time in Arkansas, which is where I'm at now. The other half of the time we spend in Tampa, Florida. We have a home down there. And so we go back and forth. Once COVID hit, my phone started ringing a lot more from business owners and friends and families that their business was going out of business. They were like, hey, all these new mandates and restrictions and limitations that are being put on us, we are drowning, please help. And so that voice got louder and louder for me. And we decided, you know what, we want to help. We want to do more. And so we started focusing on the thing that makes businesses go out of business, which is, funnily enough, the same exact thing that causes you to lose at the game of Monopoly. They run out of money, right? When you're out of money, game over. And so we realized that businesses can make 6, 7, 8 figures in revenue and be struggling behind the scenes because they're not focused on the metric that matters more than all of that, and that is bottom line profit. And so how do we enhance cash flow for businesses? How do we help them become more profitable? And that's been our focus for the last 1.5 years, 2 years since COVID started up. And yeah, that's what we live and breathe every day.
Yes, as business owners, entrepreneurs, we want to make more money. But before we can do that, we have to build relationships with people. It's not just, unless we have a tangible service that we know people need. We know people need food, water, those kinds of things. So they're going to go into a grocery store. They're going to buy food because that's what they need. But when we're coaches and consultants and, in that type of an area and, or high tech areas where people just don't understand, I don't know why I need that. We have to change our dialogue and make it slightly different. And we have to change our approach differently and allow people the opportunity to feel or know, like, and trust us so they can reach out to us. And one of the things that you shared with me, and I'm not giving away your best secrets, by the way, but it's about building relationships. And one of the things that I've been doing religiously since our conversation back, I'm trying to think of when that was. This is being recorded December of 2021. So it's probably about 8 months prior, is how you're interacting with people on your LinkedIn and in your Facebook channels. Are you reaching out to people, for example, and saying happy birthday to them? How many times, and we think, oh, it's just a happy birthday, but we don't understand the reach just from saying happy birthday to someone and how it works its way around the social media algorithms to make sure that they see more of our posts, which is another way to build the know, like, and trust factor.
So that actually is something that I do pretty consistently. Now, there may be somebody that listens to this and be like, hey, I'm your friend on social media and you didn't wish me a happy birthday. So, I'm not perfect at this, but I do try every day. Actually, I go in, like, you get just on Facebook, for example, you get the notification, so-and-so's birthday along with 8 other people. And so I take that minute or two to open up those people's profile. And I do 2 things. First thing I do before I just randomly send a message is I look to see, have they been active on this social profile over the last year? Because if not, then that means they are going into the bucket in Facebook's eyes of an inactive friend. And what percentage of your contacts and friends are active or versus inactive, that matters to Facebook in terms of how much of your content they send out. And so if they're not active or they haven't been active over the last year, I literally unfriend them. And it's kind of a cold move. It's happy birthday, I'm unfriending you, but like, they're not active. And so they're actually hurting my chances of getting my message out to more people. But I send, it's a very simple, literally happy birthday message. I hope today's awesome for you. And what that does is it keeps people, probably 25, 30, 40% sometimes of the people that I send that message to, they respond back with appreciation. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden we're in a conversation, we're in a dialogue again. And so naturally the next thing for me to ask is, what are you up to these days? Like, what are you doing? It's been a while since we talked. Or, hey, last time we talked, you mentioned, like, it's an opportunity to just further a discussion. And I think a lot of people don't understand that conversation equals conversion. The way commerce happens in life, online or offline, is through a conversation of some sort. And so people don't understand that the more conversations you're in, the more opportunity for conversion, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's getting people onto your list or, to your webinar or to buy your thing or whatever that conversion looks like. It comes from conversation most of the time.
You're right. It starts right. And that goes back to whether or not, we mentioned this off mic before we started recording this episode. It doesn't matter whether your conversation is, for example, as a speaker on a live stage, or you're on a virtual platform, on a summit, or in a networking meeting, or whatever the conversation is, it starts with a conversation, or it starts with looking at things. I guess it starts with looking at things differently. It's not just about somebody's having a birthday. Oh, that's good. I should wish them a happy birthday. No, there's like you say, it sounds like such a simple thing, saying happy birthday to someone, but it's the engagement, it's the conversation, which moves to the conversion. And I want to give you the opportunity to share a little bit more about that communication flow and how it moves things forward.
So inside of business, like, one of the areas of business that we look at kind of early on, most business owners that we're working with, that come to us because, like, hey, we need more cash flow, help us out. What do we do? Yeah. The first thing that we usually dial in on is, who are you serving? Like, who's the dream client? And then what's the hot button problem that they have? Because without that, you're not talking to anybody. You're trying to talk to everybody. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of people do. And so a lot of people will market, themselves. If you go to Google and type in plumber near me, florist near me, any business near me, and you just pull up 8 or 10 websites, you'll see that what they're saying are things that customers don't care about. They're saying things like, we've been in business for 27 years. We actually care about our customers. We have good service. We're insured. These are all things that, like, in this day and age, these are, well, I would hope so, right? Like, these are things that people expect when they're going to do business with somebody. And so there's this whole process of like market around your USP. What makes you unique? What's your unique sales proposition, right? And that's a good thing. It's good to understand what makes you unique, because that's what's going to help you stand out. But if you design your marketing message completely around those things that make you unique, what will happen is you will no longer be compelling, because your dream client could care less how long you've been in business, or if you're a generational business, or if you have, these are all things that like they hope that you provide good customer service and things like that. And so what we help people do, instead of doing the unique sales proposition, what's the market dominating position? What's the messaging that's going to resonate? And first and foremost, before you can do that, you have to know who is the dream client and what is their hot button issue that they actually care about, the problem that they have but do not want. Because we follow what we call it the conversion equation, and there's essentially 4 steps. The first step of the conversion equation is interrupt. And the way that you interrupt somebody in today's day and age is you call out the problem that they have but do not want. And that'll get them to stop in their tracks. And they're like, hey, do you have this problem? They're like, yeah, I have this problem. I'm listening. The very next thing that you follow that up with is what we call the engage step. And the way that you engage with them is you promise the result that they want but don't have yet. All right. So we got what's the problem that they have and don't want? That's what you lead with, because that'll get them to stop. And then what's the result that they want but don't yet have? And that's what you follow that lead up with, because that's what's going to get them hooked in and wanting to learn more about how do you get rid of this problem that I have, and how do you get me this result that I don't have? And when you tell them, hey, I understand your problem, I can get you this result, now they're listening, and you can follow the next step of the conversion equation, which is educate. This is where you make your case on, here's why you should do business with me. Here's some of the things that make us unique. Here's what we do differently. Here's why you should do business with me specifically. And then finally, the last part of that equation is the offer, right? It's what are you offering them? So many people, if you go to their website, they're saying things like, call me, or book the appointment, or schedule your estimate. By the way, the estimates are free, right? Another, well, I would hope so. Like, why are you going to charge somebody to tell them how much you're going to charge them? It doesn't even make sense. And so, but like, look on yard signs that you see everywhere. People market this stuff. And so what is the unique, what's the compelling offer that you can make to them that will get them to take that next step and raise their hand and identify themselves as a potential dream client for you? They're interested in the topic. And so interrupt, engage, educate, offer is the 4-part sort of framework. And that applies to if somebody calls into your business phone, you start by follow that formula, right? The problem, the result, you educate them on how you're different, and then you make them an offer to take the next step. That's your website verbiage. That's how you structure your marketing campaigns, your advertisements in the yellow pages or wherever you're advertising. That's the formula to get people to convert.
Justin Glover is my guest today, making entrepreneurs make more profit, also changing the way that they communicate, whether it be with their written text on their website or how they're speaking about their business too. I like that. Interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. The other thing I wanted to just point out here, as you were talking about some of the language that we use and that we've seen all the time in advertising. One of the ones when I worked in broadcasting that always came up in commercials, and I grind my teeth every time I would have to read it for a client that didn't know any other way to express it, but it was friendly and knowledgeable staff. I would hope they're friendly and I would hope they're knowledgeable. Otherwise, why am I going to? But you would, and maybe you would understand because this is what you do all the live long day. But it blew my mind how many clients would, in a 30-second commercial, feel compelled to say, our friendly and knowledgeable staff will help you do this or solve this problem. I'm hoping they would. Otherwise, why would I be going there? So pointing that out and realizing that it's not relevant. It's almost like, and back in the day, I understand why we had to do this. But now, for example, when you give your website, especially vocally, you don't have to say www. Right. Most people well, if they don't know by now, we don't know what rock they've been living under for the last 20 years. But you don't need that. You can just simply say justinglover.com or carlrichards.ca or whatever it is. You don't need to say www. or triple W. You can just simply get right to it and let people know what it is that they need to know and share with them what does make you unique. And I like that. Interrupt, engage, educate, offer. So one of the things that you've done, and I've had the opportunity to walk through this with you, as I said, it was several months ago. We're probably due for an update. But it's actually helping people identify what, as we've said, what are the gaps in their profit model? What are they missing out on? Are they wishing people happy birthday every day and using that to their advantage? So what would you like to pass along to the listeners today?
So I think the biggest thing that I could share with people is the clarity around where your 20% is, because I know we kind of kicked off the conversation with the place you need to be focusing is the 20% that produces the 80% of the results. And so we didn't talk about what those areas are in business. And so I want to make sure that I actually cover those so that people can know without a shadow of a doubt, this is where I need to focus in my business, because there's 5 areas of business that make up your 20%. And I'm talking to you, Carl. I'm talking to you, the other listener, regardless of what your business is. These 5 areas apply to every single business on the planet. Area number 1 is leads. So your focus should be, how do I get more and or better leads? How do I increase the number of leads that I'm getting? That's the first part of business. The second area of business that you got to focus on is your conversions. And so what percentage of those leads that raise their hand as a potential prospect, what percentage of them are converting into paying clients? How can you convert more of them? That's the second area of focus. The third area of focus is transactions. How many transactions on average are every client making? Are they purchasing from you once a year or once a month, right? What is the average number of transactions they make with you? The fourth area of business, pricing. What is the average transaction amount? At the end of the year, when you look, hey, this person made this many transactions and here's how much dollars they put into my business. What is that average transaction amount? And how can you increase it? And then the final one is profits. And so at the end of the day, what is the percentage of profit that you get to keep after all of the fulfillment and the deliverables have been taken care of, all of the expenses have been paid? What's the amount of profit you get to keep, and how can you increase that percentage? And so you got leads, conversions, transactions, pricing, and profits. And if you just so that is your 20%. And so if you hyper focus on only improving those things and staying focused on those things, your business has no choice but to grow. And the trick with this particular approach is, if you increase these areas just very incrementally, not even by huge amounts, but if you were to increase each of these areas by, say, 10%, which is child's play, because there's hundreds of strategies to increase leads. There's hundreds of strategies to improve conversions. There's hundreds of strategies to get people to buy more throughout the year. And so there's lots of strategies to do these things. And so if you just get 10% improvements on these 5 areas over the course of a year, your business profits literally double. They actually more than double. And so what most people don't understand is the exponential impact that focusing on these 5 areas and these 5 areas alone will actually bring to a business. That's what we specialize in, is helping people understand what are these, because there's hundreds of strategies to do these things. You don't need 100 of them to do, like, you need 1 or 2 good strategies for each area. And then you just say, okay, this is the strategy that I'm going to focus on to improve my leads over the next 30, 60, 90 days. Then you move on to the next one. So that is what I would leave people with, is that is where you need to be focused in business.
I think that was the eye-opening thing for me too, is that it, like you say, I mean, it's not about how do I go out and bring in this much more revenue and what 100 strategies do I need to use. And it's amazing, you know, when we sat down, and it's, as I said, going back several months, so we probably need to do it again, is, you know, 10%, as you say, it has a huge impact on your business. And that was a huge aha moment where, you know, the heavens opened and the choir started singing. It was just unbelievable. I guess if I could turn a phrase, you know, the amount of money being left on the table by not implementing those strategies.
So like we've got sort of this 4-step process to double a business. We followed it internally for the last decade. And now we're sort of, just helping other small business owners do it.
Yeah.
And the 4 steps are like step 1 of those 4 steps is to create yourself that competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that is by understanding your 20%, focusing only on that, and then taking an exponential growth approach, right? Like small incremental changes across those key areas, because that's going to give you the competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And so the second step is really to understand, okay, if these are the areas of business that I need to improve, what are the strategies available to me that will help me improve these areas? And understanding what are the different strategies at your disposal. And then the next step beyond that is to really pick the 1 or 2 that you want to focus on first and build your map. We call it a profit acceleration map, sort of around those key strategies that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck whenever you do them. And so a lot of people, they spend time, they invest their energy and their dollars in areas of business that they think are going to have the biggest impact. Like we wouldn't invest time in something if we didn't think that it was going to make a big difference. The problem is we're not great at guessing what those things are. And that's what most people are doing. And so if you look at it from a more systematic point of view and say, okay, let's put all the cards on the table and let's pick the ones that make the most sense for my business and what I want to do. Well, then you got 2 or 3 strategies to focus on. And then it's just a matter of, making sure you got the right mental systems to implement those strategies and follow them through and not, change course in the middle of the journey and all that, because knowledge without implementation is kind of worthless. It's just knowledge sitting around. So that's the steps that we follow.
Now, you have a tool to help people navigate through this, and it's your profit acceleration assessment. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said, for the last decade, we've been doing this stuff that I've been talking about just with like 1 or 2 people a year. Over the last couple of years, we've recognized the need to get this same information into more business owners' awareness. And so we initially created some software that really help us guide a business owner through a process of like, it's an intake process, takes a couple hours. We would have these one-on-one conversations and actually go through and assess their business. We talk about all the different key areas of business, see what they're currently doing, and then we plug that data into the software, and the software tells us literally based on their current, profit numbers and margins and all this stuff, if you make this change in your business, you'll experience this profit impact. If you make this change, you'll get this other impact. And so by knowing that, we're then able to organize it and prioritize it and create a roadmap that will give us the best results in the shortest time possible. And so once we started offering that, it was instantly popular. People, my calendar filled up, and we had another problem. We're like, we can't even service all that we're doing. Working with 10 times more people than we have been for the last decade, but like we're capped out. We want to help a lot more. And so we actually automated that whole front end process, and we created a self-guided, automated online business assessment that anybody can go to and take for free. And by going through, now the process takes about an hour to actually go through it, but it's the most thorough educational, informational business assessment that exists out there that I'm aware of. And when you take it, what happens is those answers go into the software and the map is created. And then we're able to actually hand you that roadmap, and it can all be sort of accessed and gone through on your own time. And we did recently start selling this. Actually, I sold the first one for $200 this morning. And after the first of the year, we've got some other team members that are coming on to actually help fulfill and deliver those. And we're going to be selling it for a little bit more than that. The cool thing is when people buy it, we literally have a $10,000 guarantee. In the first 7 days of you going through this process, if we can't find you 10 grand in real bottom line profit income inside of your business, then we'll give you your initial money back, and then we'll double it. We'll pay you, $200 more or $700 more, whatever we sold it for. We are currently offering that to your listeners free of charge. If they're hearing this and the site's still live, then scalingtime.com https://speaking is a short link that they can jot down. https: scaling time. So scalingtime.com/speaking. That'll take them to the page. They can sign up, get all of what I just said literally for free. That would be my request, is like, if you're a business owner, go through it. If you know a business owner, share it with them, tell them to go through it. The reason we started all of this is because we had a good friend that the business failure and the pressure of business failure was too much, and he took his own life. And so we're pretty passionate about getting this in front of business owners to prevent that from happening when it's not necessary. So that's what we got, my friend.
We're going to make it even easier and post the link in the show notes after today, and some other links too, if you'd like to find out more about Justin and his team and how he can help you. Justin Glover, this has been a fantastic discussion today. Before I let you go, though, I just want to ask, any final thoughts or words of wisdom or inspiration?
So my final thought is kind of a reflection of one of the sort of quotes that I just threw out a minute ago, which is, knowledge without action is useless. It's worthless. And so you just spent 20, 30 minutes listening to us talk, and I gave you some stuff. And so you can sort of put this on your digital bookshelf and virtual bookshelf, and like it can collect dust like some other stuff, probably some books that are in your physical environment, or you could do something with it. My plea, my request, what I believe is your obligation is to go do something with it, right? I believe we're here to create success. I believe it's our duty, our responsibility, our obligation to create the most amount of success that we can, because in doing so, we inspire others to be better, to level up and make this place a better place. And so I want you to be as successful as possible. I just gave you some tools and wisdom and knowledge to do so. My request is that you use it, you take an action step. Don't just let it sit and sort of, walk away with some good feelings, saying, man, I kind of like that Justin guy, and then never do anything about it. Go do something about it, right? And if you're questioning what should I do about it, the perfect next step is to block off an hour of your time, go to scalingtime.com/speaking, take that business assessment. You're going to get some other stuff in a little bundle that we put together. So a little report on how we go about doubling a business. But the important part in that bundle is the assessment. Take that assessment, get yourself your profit acceleration roadmap, and take some action.
Justin Glover, great conversation today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled at how the conversation went. Thank you so much for having me. I love this podcast and what you're doing and how you're helping the world of entrepreneurs and people that just want to be better. So let's keep at it.
Thanks, Justin. And remember, get out there and own the platform.
Thanks for listening to the Speaking of Speaking podcast. Fired up about something you heard today? Want to learn more? Be sure to visit carlspeaks.ca. And don't forget to follow Carl on Twitter @CarlRichards72 or join the Facebook group Speaking of Speaking.